This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Republicans are so desperate to believe that their leaders and the figures they look up to are real patriots who love America, and not really just the grifters that they obviously are. But they're so desperate to believe it, they'll suspend reality. And that is the case with Lara Trump at CPAC yesterday. I have two clips that I want to show you. One really deals with this using patriotism as a prop. She was trying to convince the audience, it's a line that Eric Trump, her husband, has used in the past, trying to convince Americans that every night before Betty Bye, they bring the little kitties to the bed and they say their little prayers. But also, and that's maybe believable, I mean, they're not religious people. Absolutely not. They're not religious people. But the other thing they've repeated in the past that they try to convince people of is that not only along with the prayers, in tandem with the prayers to God, they also make their kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance before bed. Apparently, they would have you believe that there's a flag pole, like in a classroom, in each of the children's rooms where they stand before and place their little hand over their heart and I pledge allegiance. I pledge soulful, dutiful allegiance to the piece of cloth on the flagpole. It's too much. Anyway, here's the first clip, then we'll get to the other one that really puts on display their ignorance and idiocy related to our history, our founding, all of the principles that they claim are so important to them. First, Pledge of Allegiance time.
Every night, Eric and I have a tradition. We stop whatever we have going on and we go do bedtime with the kids. And while they say their prayers and the Pledge of Allegiance, of course, I often think to myself, what kind of country will they live in 10, 20, or 30 years? What kind of country are we creating for our children and our grandchildren? I want my son to be proud of who he is. I want him to know that it's okay to be a patriot. It's okay to love God, and it is okay to grow up into a strong, masculine man. I want my daughter to always feel safe here in America, wherever she goes. I want her to play sports on an equal footing with her peers, which means competing against other biological girls. And I want her to understand that in the United States of America, we get ahead and succeed by merit and merit alone. I will never raise her to rely even for 1 second on the poison and lie of identity politics.
Who believes that? Do you believe that? I can tell you, I don't believe that. I don't know anybody who does believe that, but I'm also not friends with a bunch of MAGA morons. I'm not friends with a single person sitting within the confines of that room, listening and hooting and hollering and clapping, encouraging the lie. And if, by chance, that does happen, that's weird. That's cultish indoctrination. I have my own problems with just the very concept of the Pledge of Allegiance to a piece of cloth. You're pledging allegiance. Look, I was in the Marine Corps. I love my country. I consider myself patriotic. But that's weird. Anyway, next clip. And this really is a display of just how ignorant these people are, how fundamentally bereft of historical knowledge they are. Things that should be basic civics, they seem to misunderstand or not know. Or, and I think this is more likely, maybe not in her case, because she is kind of a dum-dum, they know largely, the umbrella conservative movement, they know that the audience is too stupid to know, that they can use jingoistic just language to convince the unwashed, low information rubes in the audience that it's true. Watch this talk about, the clip starts with her talking about how the Democratic Party is a party in decline, that it's dead, that it's this, that it's that, and that we've jettisoned the principles of our founders, and wait for those principles.
This is a party that has thrown away all of the values and foundations upon which our country was built and instead embraced a platform that seems to consist of two tenets: wokeness and a burning hot hatred for the one man they never saw coming, Donald J. Trump. The party of JFK is dead, now replaced by an ideology that stands against everything that makes us proud, united Americans. When our founding fathers wrote the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they used the ideals of equality, freedom, and our Judeo-Christian values as their guides, not socialism, identity politics, and a meritless society. And yet here we are.
Buzzword, buzzword, buzzword. Woke. Hatred for Trump. Look, if you love your country, if you love democracy, then you do hate, dislike, disapprove of Donald Trump because he stands against those principles. And the idiot part here is the fact that she says that the ideals that were enshrined in our founding documents by our founding fathers when they wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are equality. Equality was enshrined in our founding documents, huh? Is that true? Tell that to the ladies who didn't get to vote until the 1920s, the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. There was no equality for them. Obviously, it is self-evident there was no equality for the millions of enslaved black people. And that wouldn't be dealt with until, really, truly, until the 80s, and we're still dealing with that. Jim Crow, convict leasing, redlining, people going to serve their country in World War II, black Americans who came home to be abused and disenfranchised of both the vote, but also not being able to take advantage of veteran benefits that white veterans were given. And that happened in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 60s. Nothing to speak of the time when slavery was the order of the day in this country, enshrined. But tell me again about how equality and freedom were the order of the day for our founding fathers. When the majority of our presidents, up to Lincoln, were slave owners. George Washington owned hundreds of human beings. John Adams did not, to his credit. Thomas Jefferson did. James Madison did. Andrew Jackson did. You take a break there. Number 6, I think, is, I'm not going in order, but John Quincy Adams, he did not. Raised by a good man. So stow it, Lara Trump, with this nonsense about equality and freedom and Judeo-Christian values. If the Constitution of the United States was so Judeo-Christian in orientation, then why was God not mentioned one time? Jehovah not mentioned one time? Yahweh not mentioned one time? Elohim not mentioned one time, Lara Trump? You moron. You're using all of these buzzwords to ramp up the crowd, the largely empty auditorium in which you spoke. But conservatives eat it up. They love it. Oh, they say the Pledge of Allegiance before bed. Yes, freedom and equality, even though none of those things were true. It's a rewriting of history. That's the ultimate goal. Anyway, what do you think? We can talk about this in the comments. I would encourage that. If you'd like to do something less public, you can call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, as always, daily at dollemore.com. If you appreciate what I do, and I bring you value on a day-to-day or video-by-video basis, please consider supporting this work. You can click the join button below this video on YouTube, become a channel member for $2 a month. You can hit the super thanks button near that button. I'm not sure where they all are. You can also go over to my Patreon page outside of the YouTube ecosystem. Patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. All those are great ways to help support this work. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore everywhere. I'd love to see you there. And I will see you next time. Be genuine. I pledge allegiance. Take care of one another.